Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Well, the New Orleans Saints had a little bit of an interesting day in the defensive backfield, 24-hour stretch. We saw Paulson Adebo agree to a really giant contract with the Giants. And then we saw Will Harris agree to a free agent deal with Commanders. The Saints, meanwhile, restructured Tyrann Mathieu's contract, assuring that he would be back with the team for 2025. And that's an interesting decision because Tyrann is getting older, declining production. Harris is 29 years old, but had 74 tackles last year, 7 passes deflected. Had a pretty good season for New Orleans, played in 13 games. But they had to do work here in the secondary, certainly at safety, because the only safeties you have remaining on the roster, aside from Tyrann Mathieu, is Jordan Howden, the former 5th-round pick out of Minnesota, who again got beaten out last year by Will Harris, and J.T. Gray, who is really a special teams ace, but is designated as safety. Really is a special teams player and a backup at safety. Well, the Saints have gone and added a safety, and it's another local guy. Justin Reid, Dutchtown product, is signed or has agreed to a 3-year contract with the New Orleans Saints, valued at over $31 million. He'll have over $20 million guaranteed on the deal. Justin Reid from Dutchtown and went to Stanford and has been playing here professionally with the Kansas City Chiefs. Will now be a member of the New Orleans Saints. I'm so torn here because I think this is evidence of two things can be true at the same time. Justin Reid is a good NFL player. Played in 16 games for the Chiefs this past year. He's played 106 career games. He started 102 of the 106 career games he's played. So he has been a good starting player in the NFL from the time he came into the league with Houston in 2018. So he played 4 seasons with Houston and then the last 3 seasons with Kansas City. So you're talking about a guy who has been in the NFL for 7 years now and has been a productive player and has been a durable player as well, and certainly is at a position of need. Like, I could look what and say, okay, Will Harris and Justin Reid, guys at comparable points in their career. Will Harris came into the NFL, I believe, in 2019. Reid here, as I'm looking at 2018, when he came into the league. So they're a couple of guys in their late 20s who have been starting caliber players and good players. Will Harris left for Washington on a 2-year deal. You bring in Justin Reid on a 3-year deal, so a little more expensive. And quite frankly, Justin Reid's probably a better player than Will Harris. But I guess the way I look at it is, okay, number one, you absolutely have upgraded the safety position by adding Justin Reid. And in so doing, this has made you a better team and a better defense. The flip side of it is I keep looking at what the Saints are doing, and it's just hard to justify the dollar spent. Now, I understand, you have got to field a roster. And so you got to have guys on the field. I mean, you have to have a 53-man roster. And you have to have starting caliber players. But the giant disconnect that I have is, I think, the same thing that a lot of you have. In the feeling that this New Orleans Saints team is not really close to being competitive. So if you're not close to competing, you can look at it a couple of ways. Do you go add players to make yourself better so you can compete, or do you fix the things that's ailing your organization so that way you can build it in a more traditional way where you're building an actual foundation with talented young players to build a foundation upon. Like, signing Chase Young to a $51 million deal, you're re-signing Juwan Johnson on a $30+ million deal, bringing in Justin Reid on a $30+ million deal. You're committing resources you don't have to players that aren't going to transform your team. Like, spending that money on Chase Young and Juwan Johnson, and Justin Reid, like they've done so far, this is not going to make you a contender. And so, in reworking all the contracts that you did, you freed up cap space to have the money to spend, and so they're spending it. And yes, I think Justin Reid is an improvement over Will Harris. I like having Chase Young back. I don't love having Chase Young on a $54 million contract. Juwan Johnson, I think, is a fine player. I don't think he's an every down tight end in the NFL. He's certainly not been a versatile blocker for you, and at times has struggled in the pass game as well. He's done some good things at times. But that's where I just keep having an issue with the approach they're having. It's that you did all of this cap manipulation to free up money to spend it on things that aren't going to make you a contender. And all it's going to do is extend the issues that you're having with the debt on this organization. I mean, I don't know any other way I can say it. I feel like I've said the same thing for 4 years now. Like, if you were a contender and you wanted to manipulate the cap and contracts to go for it, to win now, I'd be good with that. But you're not a contender. And all the stuff you're doing, this is a good test case. We're going to look at Vegas win totals that'll no doubt be updated after this wave of free agency. In the New Orleans Saints, which were, I believe, around 5.5 or 6 wins a couple of weeks ago, it's not going to be a dramatic difference. Like, paying for Chase Young and Juwan Johnson and Justin Reid isn't going to make you a contending team. But what it's done, it's added more money because of the process you had to go to and reworking contracts to free up that cap space. It's added more debt into future years, which is going to make it harder to win in future years. So, I mean, two things are true at the same time. Number one, I like Justin Reid. By the way, he also kicks, which is awesome. Remember, Justin Reid's he's been a place kicker at times. Like, we kick PATs and field goals, which is awesome. He's a former soccer player. He's a local kid. Like, we all saw Justin Reid. We saw Eric and Justin Reid play at Dutchtown. It's awesome to watch him go to Stanford and do great like he did. Man, that should be celebrated. It's so cool that Justin Reid is going to come home and play for the Saints. And Devon Gottschall got traded to New Orleans, so he'll get to play for the Saints. Tyrann Mathieu will be around New Orleans for another year. There's a lot of that's awesome, and I love that component of it. So, I mean, yes, that part of it I love. Justin Reid is a better safety. He makes you better at safety. He doesn't make you a contender, though. So when I ask, is it worth spending that money? I would tell you no. It wasn't worth spending the money you did on the Chase Young contract or the Juwan Johnson contract or this contract because it's not making you a contender. If you had the cap space to do it, okay. But to create the cap space, you had to rework contracts to kick money into future years to be able to do this, which isn't going to make you a contender. That's the problem I have. It's just bad debt. That's all it is. Dave Ramsey would hate the New Orleans Saints. Better than I deserve. That's pretty good. I feel like I nailed that, didn't I?
No, that was a good
Wasn't that
Ramsey.
pretty good?
Yeah.
Wasn't that pretty good?
Yeah, and just such a signature line. Oh.
Stupid. I probably should have stopped.
Yeah, no, the better than I deserve is good. That's stupid.
Yeah, it's good. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.